Compact First, Workbook, 2nd edition, by Peter May. Published by Cambridge University Press and Cambridge English Language Assessment, 2014. This recording is copyright.
Unit 2. Listening, Part 2. Exam Task.
You will hear artist Leonie Meyer talking about making new friends online. For questions 1 to 10, complete the sentences. You now have 45 seconds to look at Part 2.
A question I'm sometimes asked is why I chose the internet as a way of making new friends. Well, most people are surrounded by colleagues or fellow students or whoever, and they naturally tend to form friendships within that group. But for someone like me, whose job means I'm alone most of the time, that obviously doesn't happen. And that's particularly the case now I'm living in a cottage in a remote part of the countryside. I remember thinking when I first saw the place that there couldn't be a town within 50 kilometres. Actually, it must be over 60 because it's 30 kilometres to the river, and that's not even halfway. It takes ages to get there. But it's got all the features of a modern house, and it was like that when I moved in. It had all the basics like water and electricity, and there was already a surprisingly good mobile phone signal, but I did have to have an internet connection installed. That works well, it's very fast and reliable, and I soon decided to use it to find a new friend. I wasn't interested in dating, and I'd thought of putting my details on a social networking site like Facebook. But in the end, I went for a friendship one because I was only really looking for 1 or 2 friends. When I registered, I had to say what kind of person I was looking for in terms of their interests, so I mentioned my work, but it was never really my aim to meet another painter because that might restrict the conversation to art, which I didn't want. Instead, I gave walking as my favourite hobby and said I hoped it would be a shared interest. I also listed the types of music I like, where I like travelling and so on, and also gave a brief description of my personality. I wasn't sure what to say about myself, but in the end I put friendly, though my brother said anyone who chooses to live that far from civilization should be considered highly unsociable. He was joking, though, and I was quite looking forward to people getting in touch via the site once I'd signed up in March last year. Then, in April, there were a couple of messages from people who turned out to be wasting my time, so it was May before I heard from anyone I felt I wanted to correspond with. That was Hannah, who's now become one of my best friends. Sometimes you feel immediately that you have things in common with someone you meet, but actually the first things I noticed with her were the ways we differ, such as our ages, she's quite a bit older than me, and also the fact that she's from a much wealthier background. But gradually I realised her sense of humour was just like mine, and we began to chat online with each other more and more often, until eventually we agreed to go for a walk together. She lives about 10 miles away, and has her favourite walk there by the lake, whereas I like to go up and down the river valley near here. So we agreed to compromise, and nowadays we walk in some hills that lie about halfway between the two, several times a week. We get on really well, and have some great chats and laughs. I've made other friends online too. For instance, there's Nina, who I met for the first time just the other day. It turns out she lives quite near here, which was a nice surprise. She's actually a farmer these days, after some years working as a company lawyer in the city. She much prefers the country life, and I must say, so do I.